Among the hundreds of fan letters that arrive at Michael Jordan's office each week, one stands out. Written on hospital letterhead, it tells of an elderly woman dying alone, claiming to be his former teacher. What Michael discovers when he visits. Her hospital room will unravel a 60-year-old secret that changes everything he thought he knew about his family and leads to the most important reunion of his life. Michael Jordan sat in his corner office at Jordan Brand headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. The March sun shone through the tall windows. He looked at the stack of papers on his desk. Sales reports, marketing plans, meeting notes. At 60 years old, he still worked hard every day. His assistant, Jennifer, knocked on the door. She carried a large box of mail. "Your fan mail is here, Mr. Jordan," she said with a smile. "Looks like a heavy week." Michael nodded. "Just put it on the table. I'll look at it later." Jennifer set the box down and left. Michael turned back to his computer. He was reading about shoe sales in Europe when something made him look up. The box of letters sat there waiting. He had been getting fan mail for over 40 years. Letters from kids who wanted to play basketball. Letters from adults who remembered watching him play. Letters asking for money or autographs. Most of the time, he just signed a few photos and sent them back. But today felt different. Something pulled him toward that box. Michael walked over and opened it. Inside were dozens of letters. Some were typed on computers. Others were written by hand. Some envelopes had team logos. Others had cartoon stickers that he picked up a few letters and read them quickly. A boy from Texas wanted tips on shooting free throws. A girl from Florida said he was her hero. A man from Chicago thanked him for all the great memories. Then he saw at point one letter looked different from the rest. The envelope was cream-colored and thick. His name was written in careful cursive handwriting. No fancy logos. No return address. Just Michael Jordan in black ink. Michael's hands felt shaky as he picked up the letter. Something about it made his heart beat faster. He opened it slowly. The letter was written on hospital paper. At the top, it said Presbyterian Hospital, Charlotte, North Carolina. Michael began to read. "Dear Mr. Jordan, my name is Sarah Chun. I am a nurse at Presbyterian Hospital in Charlotte. I hope this letter finds you well. I am writing about one of my patients. Her name is Mrs. Dorothy Emerson. She is 78 years old. She has been in our hospital for 3 weeks now. Mrs. Emerson has pancreatic cancer. The doctors say she does not have much time left. Maybe a few weeks. Maybe less. Here is why I am writing to you. Mrs. Emerson says she was your teacher at Laney High School in Wilmington. She taught algebra there for 35 years. She keeps talking about her boy Michael, who became famous. Mrs. Emerson has no family, no children, no husband, no brothers or sisters. She has been alone in this hospital room for 3 weeks. The only visitors she gets are doctors and nurses. She keeps a newspaper clipping by her bed. It shows you in your North Carolina uniform from 1982. She looks at it every day. She tells everyone who will listen about how proud she is of you. I know you must get thousands of letters. I know you are very busy. But Mrs. Emerson is dying alone. She talks about you like you were her own son. If there is any way you could visit her, I think it would mean everything to her. She is in room 314. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Sarah Chun." Michael's hands were shaking now. He read the letter again. Then he read it a third time. Mrs. Dorothy Emerson. The name hit him like a punch to the stomach. He remembered her clearly. She had been his 9th grade algebra teacher in 1979. Michael was 15 years old then. He was tall and skinny. He cared more about baseball than basketball. And he was terrible at math. Mrs. Emerson made him stay after school for extra help. She was patient with him when other teachers got frustrated. She never made him feel stupid, even when he got the wrong answer over and over again. Michael closed his eyes and could see her classroom. The smell of chalk dust. The sound of her voice explaining fractions. The way she wrote problems on the blackboard with perfect handwriting. But there was more. Mrs. Emerson was the teacher who told him to try out for the basketball team. "You're tall, Michael," she had said one day after math class. "Have you thought about basketball?" "I'm not good enough," he had answered. "I got cut from the team last year." "Getting cut doesn't mean you're not good enough," she had said. "It just means you're not ready yet. But you will be." She was right. Michael tried out again his junior year and made the team. The rest was history. Mrs. Emerson had believed in him when he didn't believe in himself, and now she was dying alone in a hospital room. Michael grabbed his phone and called his pilot. Tommy, I need the jet ready in 2 hours. We're going to Charlotte. Yes, sir, Mr. Jordan. How long will you be staying? Michael looked at the letter again. Mrs. Emerson had kept that newspaper clipping for 41 years. She had no family. She was alone. I don't know yet, he said. Maybe a few days. Michael walked to his window and looked out at the parking lot. Cars were coming and going. People were living their busy lives. None of them knew that somewhere in Charlotte, North Carolina, an old teacher was dying alone that he thought about all. The people who had helped him become successful. His parents, his coaches, his teammates. But Mrs. Emerson was different. She had seen something in him before anyone else did. She had planted a seed of confidence that grew into everything he became. Michael picked up the letter one more time. Something about it bothered him. Not the words themselves, but something else. Something he couldn't quite figure out. Why would a nurse take the time to write such a long letter to a stranger? How did she know so much about Mrs. Emerson's past? And why did Mrs. Emerson keep talking about him after all these years? There was more to this story. Michael could feel it. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Whatever secrets were waiting in Charlotte, he was going to find them. Mrs. Emerson had been there for him when he needed her most. Now it was his turn to be there for her. But as Michael walked toward the elevator, he had no idea that this trip would change everything. He thought he knew about his past. The letter from Sarah Chun was just the beginning. Some secrets had been buried for 40 years. And they were about to come to light. Michael's private jet landed at Charlotte Douglas International Airport 3 hours later. The familiar North Carolina air hit his face as he walked down the steps. It smelled like home, like pine trees and red clay dirt, like memories he had pushed deep down inside. He could have driven straight to the hospital. That would have been the smart thing to do. Mrs. Emerson was dying. Every minute mattered. But Michael found himself in a rental car driving south on Highway 17. He was going to Wilmington first, to Laney High School. He needed to see it again before he faced Mrs. Emerson. He needed to remember who he used to be. The drive took 2 hours. Michael drove past tobacco fields and small towns, past gas stations and churches and roadside fruit stands. This was the North Carolina he grew up in. Simple, quiet, a place where everyone knew everyone else's business. As he drove, memories flooded back. He remembered being 15 years old and scared. Scared he wasn't good enough. Scared he would never amount to anything. Scared that everyone could see he was just pretending to be confident. Mrs. Emerson had seen through all of that. She had seen something in him that he couldn't see in himself. Michael pulled into the parking lot of Laney High School. The building looked smaller than he remembered. The brick was faded now. The windows needed cleaning. But it was still his school. The place where everything began. A few students were walking around the campus during lunch break. Some of them recognized him and started pointing. Michael waved but kept walking toward the main office. The principal's secretary nearly dropped her coffee when she saw him. "Oh my goodness. Mr. Jordan, what are you doing here?" "I was hoping to speak with the principal," Michael said. "I'm sorry I didn't call first." "Of course. Mr. Walker will be so excited to meet you." Principal James Walker came out of his office with a huge smile. He was a tall black man about Michael's age. He had kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Michael Jordan, this is incredible. What brings you back to Laney?" Michael explained about Mrs. Emerson. He didn't mention the letter from the nurse. He just said he had heard she was sick and wanted to visit her. "Mrs. Emerson was a legend here," Mr. Walker said. "She taught for 35 years. Thousands of students. She retired in 2005, but people still talk about her." Mr. Walker gave Michael a tour of the school. They walked through the hallways Michael remembered, past lockers that looked exactly the same, past the gym where he had been cut from the basketball team as a sophomore. "Here's something you might want to see," Mr. Walker said. He opened a door to what used to be Mrs. Emerson's classroom. The room was now a computer lab. 25 desktop computers sat where wooden desks used to be. A smart board hung where the old blackboard used to be. Everything was modern and digital, but Michael could still see it the way it was. He could see Mrs. Emerson at the front of the room, writing algebra problems in perfect cursive. He could see himself sitting in the third row, struggling to understand. "X and Y. Do you have any old yearbooks?" Michael asked. "Of course. Come to my office." Mr. Walker pulled out yearbooks from the 1970s and 1980s. He flipped through the pages until he found pictures of Mrs. Emerson. Michael stared at the photos. There she was in 1979, the year she taught him. She looked young and hopeful. Her hair was dark brown then. She wore simple dresses and comfortable shoes, but there was something else. In every single picture, Mrs. Emerson wore the same piece of jewelry, a small gold pendant necklace. It was delicate and pretty, but not expensive. She always wore that necklace, Mr. Walker said. Even in her last years here, someone asked her about it once, and she said it was special to her. Michael stared at the necklace in the photo. A memory was trying to surface. Something important. Something he had forgotten. Then it hit him that he was 15 years old again, sitting in Mrs. Emerson's classroom after school. She was helping him with a math problem. He was frustrated and ready to give up. "I'm stupid," he had said. "I'll never get this." "You are not stupid, Michael Jordan," she had said firmly. "You just learn differently than other people. There's nothing wrong with that." Then she had touched her necklace. Just for a second, like it was a habit. Mrs. Emerson, 15-year-old Michael had asked, "What's that necklace?" "It's pretty." She had smiled, but it was a sad smile. "It reminds me of the most important student I ever had. Someone who needed me to believe in them." Back then, Michael had assumed she meant him. He thought he was her most important student. But now, looking at the yearbook photos, he wasn't so sure. Mrs. Emerson had been teaching for years before Michael came along. She could have been talking about any student. "Mr. Walker," Michael said slowly, "do you know anything about Mrs. Emerson's personal life? Did she ever talk about family?" "Not much," Mr. Walker said. "She never married, never had children. She devoted her whole life to teaching." "But now that you mention it, there was something." Mr. Walker paused, thinking. A few years before she retired, she got a phone call at school. Personal calls weren't allowed, but she took this one. "I remember because she started crying. Happy tears, I think. She said something like, 'Thank you for calling. I've been worried about you.' Do you know who it was?" "No idea. But after that call, she seemed different. Happier, maybe. Like she had been waiting for that phone call for a long time." Michael felt his heart racing. There was definitely more to Mrs. Emerson's story. Someone had been important enough to make her cry happy. Tears. Someone she had been worried about. "Mr. Walker, I need to ask you something strange. Did Mrs. Emerson ever mention a student named Marcus? Maybe from the late 1970s. Mr. Walker shook his head. "I wasn't here then, but we might have old records." "What?" "Just curious," Michael said. But he wasn't just curious. He was starting to piece together a puzzle. A puzzle that had been waiting 40 years to be solved. Michael thanked Mr. Walker and walked back to his car. As he drove toward Charlotte, toward the hospital, toward Mrs. Emerson, his mind was racing. The necklace, the phone call, the sad smile. When she talked about her most important student. Mrs. Emerson had secrets. And somehow, Michael knew those secrets were connected to him. 20 minutes outside Charlotte, his phone rang. It was Sarah Chun, the nurse who had written the letter. "Mr. Jordan? Is this really you?" "Yes, it's me. I'm on my way to the hospital now." "Thank God," Sarah said. "Mrs. Emerson is getting weaker. But she keeps asking about you. She keeps saying, 'He'll come. My Michael will come. I'll be there in 20 minutes. "Mr. Jordan," Sarah said, her voice quiet. "There's something else. Mrs. Emerson has been talking in her sleep. She keeps saying a name. Marcus. Do you know who that is?" Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Marcus. The same name he had asked Mr. Walker about. "No," he said. "I don't know who Marcus is." But as he said it, Michael knew he was lying. Not to Sarah, but to himself. Somewhere deep in his memory, the name Marcus meant something. Something important, and he was about to find out what. Presbyterian Hospital sat on a busy street in Charlotte. Cars rushed past the main entrance. People hurried in and out with flowers and worried faces. Michael parked his rental car and sat for a moment. His hands were sweating that he had faced pressure his whole life. Game-winning shots, championship games, business meetings worth millions of dollars. But walking into this hospital felt harder than any of that. Mrs. Emerson was dying, and she had secrets that somehow involved him. Michael walked through the automatic doors. The hospital smelled like cleaning supplies and sadness. A security guard recognized him and smiled. Michael nodded but kept walking toward the elevators. Third floor. Room 314. The elevator felt like it took forever. Michael's heart was beating fast. What would Mrs. Emerson look like now? What would he say to her? How do you talk to someone who is dying? The elevator doors opened. Michael walked down a long hallway. Nurses moved quietly between rooms. Machines beeped softly. Everything felt serious and sad. Mr. Jordan? Michael turned around. A young Asian woman in scrubs was walking toward him. She looked tired but excited. I'm Sarah Chun, the nurse who wrote to you. Sarah was smaller than Michael had imagined. Maybe 28 years old. She had kind eyes and a gentle voice. She looked like she cared deeply about her patients. Thank you for writing that letter, Michael said. How is she? Sarah's face became serious. Not good. She's been sleeping most of the day, but she had a good hour this morning. She kept talking. About you. They walked together toward room 314. Sarah stopped outside the door. Mr. Jordan, I need to prepare you. She looks very different now. The cancer has made her much smaller, much weaker, but her mind is still sharp. Michael nodded. Can I ask you something? In your letter, you said she talks about me like I was her son. Did she ever mention other students? Anyone named Marcus? Sarah looked surprised. How did you know about Marcus? She does mention that. Names sometimes. Usually when she's falling asleep. She says things like, I hope Marcus is okay, or Marcus was so smart. Do you know who he is? I'm not sure, Michael said. Maybe another student. Sarah opened the door to room 314. Mrs. Emerson, you have a visitor. Michael looked through the doorway. The room was small and clean. Afternoon sunlight came through the window. And there, in the hospital bed, was Mrs. Dorothy Emerson. She looked so tiny. Her gray hair was thin and spread across the pillow. Her hands were folded on top of the white blanket. She was much smaller than Michael remembered, but taped to the table next to her bed was the newspaper clipping Sarah had mentioned. A photo of 19-year-old Michael in his North Carolina uniform from 1982. The paper was yellow and worn from being handled so many times. Mrs. Emerson's eyes were closed. She was breathing slowly and peacefully. Mrs. Emerson, Sarah said softly. Someone special is here to see you. Mrs. Emerson opened her eyes. For a moment, she looked confused. Then she saw Michael standing in the doorway. Her face changed completely. Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to sit up in bed. Michael, she whispered. Oh my goodness. Michael, is it really you? Michael walked to her bedside. Up close, he could see how sick she was. But her eyes were still bright, still kind, still the same eyes that had looked at him with patience when he couldn't solve algebra problems. Hello, Mrs. Emerson, he said. I came as soon as I heard you were here. I knew you would come, she said, reaching for his hand. I told the nurses. I said my Michael would come. You always were a good boy. Michael sat in the chair next to her bed. Her hand felt so small in his. So fragile. How are you feeling? He asked. Oh, I'm dying, she said with a weak smile. But I'm not afraid. I've had a good life. I helped a lot of students over the years. They talked for the next hour. Mrs. Emerson told him about her years of teaching, about students who went on to become doctors and teachers and engineers, about the letters she got from former students who remembered her classes. I kept track of you, she said. Every game, every championship. I have a scrapbook at home with every newspaper article I could find. You do. Of course. You were always special, Michael. Even when you were 15 and thought you were stupid at math. Michael laughed. I remember those after-school sessions. You were so patient with me. You weren't stupid. You just needed someone to believe in you. Mrs. Emerson's eyes grew distant. She was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Emerson, are you okay? I'm thinking about other students, she said slowly. Students who needed me to believe in them. Some I helped. Some I couldn't save. What do you mean? Mrs. Emerson looked directly at Michael. There was a boy I taught a few years before you. Came to Laney. Brilliant boy. The smartest student I ever had. But life got in the way. Michael felt his heart speed up. What was his name? Marcus, she said quietly. Marcus Williams. There it was. The name that had been following Michael all day. The name Mrs. Emerson said in her sleep. Tell me about Marcus, Michael said. Mrs. Emerson's eyes filled with tears again. But these were different tears. Sad tears. Marcus was going to change the world, she said. He had a mind like no one I'd ever seen. He could solve problems in his head that other students needed calculators for. He read everything, understood everything. What happened to him? His grandmother got sick. Marcus lived with her in a tiny apartment downtown. They were very poor. When she got sick, Marcus had to drop out of school to take care of her and work to pay for medicine. Mrs. Emerson reached for a tissue. I tried to help. I offered to pay for his books and supplies from my own salary. But Marcus was too proud. He said he couldn't take charity. Michael listened carefully. Something about this story felt important. Very important. He got his GED eventually. Mrs. Emerson continued. Went to community college for a while. But by then he was 25 and had to work full-time. He never got the education he deserved. Do you know what happened to him? Is he still alive? Mrs. Emerson nodded slowly. We stayed in touch over the years. Christmas cards mostly. He moved to Detroit to work in the car factories. Never married. Never had children. She paused and looked at Michael with an expression he couldn't read. Mrs. Emerson, Michael said, why are you telling me? About Marcus? She squeezed his hand tighter. Because, Michael, there's something about Marcus that I should have told you a long time ago. Something I promised to keep secret. But I'm dying now, and secrets shouldn't die with me. Michael felt the room spinning. What kind of secret? Mrs. Emerson looked into his eyes. Her voice was barely a whisper. Michael, there's something I need to tell you about Marcus. Something I should have told you 30 years ago. The machines in the room beeped quietly. Outside the window, traffic moved along the busy street. But inside room 314, time seemed to stop. Michael waited for Mrs. Emerson to continue. Whatever she was about to tell him would change everything. Marcus is your father, Michael. Your real father. The words hit Michael like a punch to the chest. He felt dizzy. The room seemed to spin around him. His hands gripped the sides of the chair. What? He whispered. What did you say? Mrs. Emerson's eyes were full of tears. I'm sorry, Michael. I should have told you years ago. But I promised your mother I would keep the secret. Michael stood up quickly. Too quickly. He felt like he might fall down. That's impossible, he said. My father was James Jordan. He raised me. He loved me. He died in 1993. James was your father in every way that mattered. Mrs. Emerson said gently. He was a good man who loved you like his own son. But Marcus Williams is your biological father. Michael began pacing around the small hospital room. This couldn't be true. His whole life, he had been Michael Jordan, son of James and Dolores Jordan. His father had been his hero, his role model, his biggest fan. I don't understand, Michael said. How do you know this? Why would my mother lie to me? Mrs. Emerson patted the bed. Sit down, Michael. Let me tell you the whole story. Michael sat down, but his leg bounced nervously. His mind was racing. Marcus and your mother met in 1962, Mrs. Emerson began. They were both very young. Dolores was 17. Marcus was 19. They fell in love the way young people do, completely and without thinking about the future. Michael tried to imagine his mother as a teenager. She had always seemed so strong and wise to him. It was hard to picture her as a scared 17-year-old. When Dolores became pregnant with you, Marcus was terrified. Mrs. Emerson continued. He was working 2 jobs just to keep his grandmother's apartment. He was taking classes at night, trying to get his high school diploma. He knew he couldn't support a family, so he just left. Michael asked. His voice sounded angry. No, Michael. It wasn't like that. Marcus loved your mother very much. And he already loved you, even before you were born. But he was realistic about what he could provide. Mrs. Emerson reached into her bedside drawer. She pulled out an old photograph and handed it to Michael. The photo showed a young black man in a cap and gown. He was smiling proudly at the camera. He looked happy but tired. There was something familiar about his face. This is Marcus at his GED ceremony in 1964, Mrs. Emerson said. He was 21 years old. He had worked for 3 years to get his high school diploma while supporting his grandmother. Michael stared at the photo. The man did look familiar. He had the same strong jaw that Michael saw in the mirror every day. The same long fingers. The same serious eyes. Your mother was so young and scared, Mrs. Emerson continued. Her parents were furious when they found out she was pregnant. They wanted her to give you up for adoption. Michael's heart was pounding. What happened? Marcus made the hardest decision of his life. He stepped aside so that Dolores could marry James Jordan. James was a good man who could provide for her. And the baby, he could give you opportunities that Marcus never could. Michael felt sick to his stomach. So Marcus just gave me away. He gave you a chance at a better life, Mrs. Emerson said firmly. Do you think that was easy for him? Do you think he didn't want to hold his son? To teach you things? To watch you grow up? Tears were running down Mrs. Emerson's cheeks now. Marcus came to see me before he left for Detroit. He was crying like a baby. He said it was killing him to leave you, but he knew it was the right thing to do. Michael was quiet for a long time. He looked at the photograph again. This stranger who was apparently his father looked so young, so hopeful. "Why are you telling me this now?" Michael asked. "Because Marcus is dying too, Michael. He has Alzheimer's disease. He's in a nursing home in Detroit. He doesn't have much time left." Michael felt like the room was closing in on him. His teacher was dying. His real father was dying. And he had never known either of them the way he should have. Does he know about me? I mean, does he know how my life turned out? Mrs. Emerson smiled through her tears. "Oh, Michael, Marcus has followed every single day of your career. Every game, every championship, every business deal. He is so proud of you." "How do you know that?" "Because he writes to me. He has been writing to me for 40 years. Every few months, I get a letter from Marcus telling me about something you did, some game you won, some award you received." Mrs. Emerson reached into her drawer again. This time she pulled out a thick stack of letters tied with a blue ribbon. "These are just from the last 5 years," she said. "I have boxes of them at home." Michael picked up one of the letters. It was written in careful handwriting on plain white paper. The return address said Marcus Williams, Detroit, Michigan. "Can I read one?" Michael asked. "Of course. They're about you." Michael opened a letter dated 6 months ago. It read, "Dear Dorothy, I saw Michael's interview on TV last night. He was talking about his new school in Chicago. He looked good, older, but still strong that I wish I could tell him how proud I am. I wish I could tell him that everything he accomplished makes all the pain worth it, that I know I made the right choice 40 years ago. Look how amazing he turned out. But sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to be his dad. Really be his dad, that I hope you are well. Thank you for always writing back to me. You are the only person who understands. Love, Marcus." Michael's hands were shaking as he read. This man, his biological father, had been thinking about him his whole life. Missing him, being proud of him from far away. "Mrs. Emerson," Michael said, "why did you keep Marcus's letters? Why did you stay in touch with him?" Mrs. Emerson touched her throat where her gold necklace used to hang. "Because Marcus gave me that necklace in 1963. He asked me to wear it and think of him whenever I saw you in my classroom." Michael remembered the necklace from all the yearbook photos. She had worn it every single day. "You see, Michael, you weren't just any student to me. You were the son of the boy I couldn't save. When Marcus had to leave school to take care of his grandmother, it broke my heart. I felt like I had failed him." Mrs. Emerson wiped her eyes with a tissue. "When you came to my classroom 15 years later, you looked just like Marcus did at your age. Smart but scared, talented but unsure. I saw my chance to help Marcus's son, the way I couldn't help Marcus." Michael felt overwhelmed. Everything made sense now. Why Mrs. Emerson had been so patient with him. Why she had pushed him to try out for basketball. Why she had believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. She wasn't just being a good teacher, Michael realized. She was keeping a promise to my real father. "Mrs. Emerson," Michael said quietly, "is Marcus still alive? Can I see him?" She nodded. "He's at Sunrise Manor Nursing Home in Detroit. But Michael, you need to know something else. His Alzheimer's is pretty bad now. He may not remember you. He may not even remember who he is." Michael stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was starting to set. People were driving home from work, living their normal lives. But Michael's life had just turned completely upside down. "There's something else," Mrs. Emerson said softly. Michael turned around. "What?" "Marcus has been saving money for you. For 40 years. Every paycheck, he put aside something for his son. It's not much, but he wanted you to have it when he died." Michael felt tears coming to his eyes. This man he had never met had been sacrificing for him his entire life. "Mrs. Emerson," Michael said, "does my mother know you're telling me this?" She shook her head. "Dolores and I haven't spoken in 20 years. She was angry with me for staying in touch with Marcus. She thought it would complicate things." Michael walked back to Mrs. Emerson's bedside. He took her small hand in his. "Thank you for telling me," he said. "I know it wasn't easy. I'm dying, Michael. I couldn't take this secret with me. Marcus deserves to see his son before he dies. And you deserve to know where you really come from." Michael kissed Mrs. Emerson's forehead. "I need to go to Detroit." "I know you do," she said. "But promise me something first. Anything. Promise me you won't be angry with your mother. She did what she thought was best for you. And promise me you won't be angry with Marcus. He gave you up because he loved you." Michael nodded. "I promise." As he walked toward the door, Mrs. Emerson called his name. "Michael." "Yes." Marcus may not remember your name, but somewhere in his heart, he knows who you are. He's been waiting 40 years to see you." Michael left the hospital with his head spinning. He had come to Charlotte to visit a dying teacher. Instead, he had discovered that his entire life was built on a secret. His real father was alive. He was dying, and he was waiting in Detroit. Michael pulled out his phone and called his pilot. "Tommy, change of plans. We're going to Detroit." Michael sat in the back of his rental car in the hospital parking lot. His hands were shaking as he held the phone. Everything he thought he knew about his life was wrong. "Detroit, sir?" Tommy asked. "How long will we be there?" "I don't know," Michael said. "Maybe one day. Maybe longer. I need to see someone." As his driver took him back to the airport, Michael called his mother. Dolores Jordan was 78 years old now. She lived in a nice house in Charlotte that Michael had bought for her years ago. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. "Michael, is everything okay? You never call this late." Michael looked at his watch. It was 8 o'clock at night. He had been at the hospital for hours. "Mom, I need to ask you something important." "What's wrong? You sound upset." Michael took a deep breath. "I just visited Mrs. Emerson, my old algebra teacher from Laney High School." There was silence on the other end of the phone. "Mom, are you there?" "Yes," Dolores said quietly. "I'm here. How is Dorothy?" "She's dying, Mom. She has cancer." "I'm sorry to hear that," Dolores said. Her voice sounded careful now. "Worried?" "Mom, she told me about Marcus Williams." The silence lasted so long that Michael thought the call had dropped. "Mom." "Oh, Michael," Dolores said. She was crying now. "She promised me she would never tell you." "So it's true? Marcus Williams is my biological father?" "Yes," Dolores whispered. "It's true." Michael felt his heart breaking, not because he was angry, but because he could hear the pain in his mother's voice. She had been carrying this secret for 60 years. "Why didn't you tell me?" Michael asked, gently. "Because James was your father," Dolores said firmly. "In every way that mattered. He loved you from the day you were born. He changed your diapers. He taught you to ride a bike. He came to every basketball game." "I know Dad loved me," Michael said. "I'm not questioning that. But why keep Marcus a secret?" Dolores was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was very soft. "Because I was 17 years old and terrified," she said. "My parents were so angry when they found out I was pregnant. They wanted me to give you away to strangers." Michael tried to imagine his mother as a scared teenager. It was hard to picture. She had always been so strong. "Marcus wanted to marry me," Dolores continued. "He said we could make it work somehow. But Michael, he was living in a tiny apartment with his sick grandmother. He was working at a gas station during the day and going to night school. He could barely feed himself. So he just left." "No," Dolores said quickly. "Marcus never wanted to leave. It was the hardest decision he ever made. He cried when he told me he thought I should marry James instead." Michael listened as his mother told him the whole story. How James Jordan had been a family friend. How he had offered to marry Dolores and raise the baby as his own son. How Marcus had stepped aside because he wanted Michael to have opportunities he couldn't provide. "James knew?" Michael asked. "Of course he knew. We never lied to each other. But we agreed that you were our son. Not just his stepson. Our son." Michael felt tears coming to his eyes. "Did you love Dad? I mean, really love him?" "Oh, Michael," Dolores said. "I grew to love James with all my heart. He was the best husband and father I could have asked for. But yes, it took time. At first, I married him because I was scared and alone." "What about Marcus? Did you love him?" Dolores was quiet again. "I was 17, Michael. I thought what Marcus and I had was love. Maybe it was. But it was also just 2 scared kids who didn't know what they were doing." Michael's plane was taking off now. He looked out the window at the lights of Charlotte getting smaller below him. "Mom, Marcus is dying too. He has Alzheimer's disease. He's in a nursing home in Detroit." "I know," Dolores said softly. "You know? How do you know?" "Because Dorothy sends me updates sometimes. Even though we don't talk anymore, she still sends me a card at Christmas. She always mentions Marcus." Michael was surprised. "You've been keeping track of him all these years." "Of course I have. Michael, just because I didn't marry Marcus doesn't mean I stopped caring about him. He's your father. He gave you life. Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I was protecting you. And protecting James. And protecting our family. I thought it was better for everyone if the past stayed in the past." Michael understood, but it still hurt. "I'm going to see him, Mom." "I know you are," Dolores said. And I think you should. But Michael, you need to understand something. Marcus may not remember you. His Alzheimer's is very bad now. Mrs. Emerson told me that too. Also, Dolores said carefully, Marcus may not look the way you expect. He's been sick for a long time, and he's lived a hard life. Michael thought about the photograph Mrs. Emerson had shown him. Marcus had looked so young and hopeful in his graduation picture. What kind of life did he have? Michael asked. He worked in the car factories in Detroit for 30 years. It was hard work, physical work. He never married, never had other children. He lived alone most of his life. Michael felt guilty. While he was growing up in a nice house with loving parents, Marcus was working alone in a factory. While Michael was playing basketball and becoming famous, Marcus was growing old by himself. Mom, did Marcus ever try to contact me? Ever try to see me? No, Dolores said quickly. Never. He kept his promise to stay away. But Michael, that doesn't mean he didn't care. Dorothy told me he followed your whole career. Every game, every championship. He was so proud of you. The plane was flying over Virginia now. In 2 hours, Michael would be in Detroit. He would meet the man who gave him life but never got to raise him. Mom, are you angry that I'm going to see him? No, sweetheart. I think it's time. You're a grown man with children of your own. You deserve to know where you came from. Are you angry with Mrs. Emerson for telling me? Dolores sighed. I was angry with Dorothy for years. Angry that she stayed in touch with Marcus. Angry that she kept his letters. I thought it would complicate things if you ever found out. But now I think maybe she was right. Secrets are heavy things to carry. Dorothy carried this one for 60 years. Maybe it's time to let it go. Michael looked out the airplane window at the dark sky. Somewhere below, people were living their lives, going to work, raising their families. Most of them probably knew who their real parents were. Mom, do my brothers and sister know? Michael had 4 siblings. All of them thought James Jordan was their father and his father. No, Dolores said. You're the only one who's not James's biological child. But Michael, that doesn't make you any less his son, or any less their brother. I know, Michael said. I'm not questioning our family. I just need to meet Marcus. I need to understand where I came from. I understand, Dolores said. Just remember, the man you're going to see is not the young man who loved me 60 years ago. He's old and sick and confused. Don't expect too much. I won't, Michael promised. And Michael, yes, when you see Marcus, tell him that I never forgot him. Tell him that I'm glad he made the choice he did. You turned out perfect. Michael felt tears running down his cheeks. I will, Mom. I love you, son. I love you too. After Michael hung up, he sat in the dark airplane thinking about family. James Jordan had been his father in every way that mattered. He had been there for every important moment. He had loved Michael unconditionally, but Marcus Williams was his father too. The man who had given him life and then stepped aside so that life could be better. Tomorrow, Michael would meet the father he never knew. The man who had been watching from far away for 60 years. The man who had sacrificed everything so his son could have opportunities he never had. Michael didn't know what to expect, but he knew he had to try. The plane flew through the dark sky toward Detroit, toward answers, toward a reunion 60 years in the making. Michael couldn't sleep during the 2-hour flight. He kept thinking about the conversation with his mother, about Marcus Williams working alone in car factories for 30 years, about the letters he wrote to Mrs. Emerson, about the money he had been saving for a son he never got to raise. When the plane landed at Detroit Metropolitan Airport, it was almost midnight. The city looked cold and empty from the airplane window. Street lights made long shadows on empty roads. Michael had been to Detroit many times during his playing career. He had played against the Pistons at the Palace of Auburn Hills. He remembered the tough fans and the physical games. But he had never thought about the fact that his biological father lived somewhere in this city, that a rental car was waiting for him at the airport. Michael drove through the quiet streets toward his hotel. Detroit looked different at night. Older buildings, empty lots where buildings used to be. Signs of a city that had seen better times. At his hotel, Michael lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow he would meet Marcus Williams. What would he say? What would Marcus say? Would Marcus even remember who Michael was? Michael picked up his phone and called Mrs. Emerson's hospital room. He knew it was late, but he needed to talk to someone who understood. Hello, Sarah Chun answered. She sounded tired. Sarah, this is Michael Jordan. I'm sorry to call so late. How is Mrs. Emerson? She's sleeping, Sarah said. But she's been asking about you. Did you make it to Detroit okay? Yes, I'm here. Sarah, can I ask you something? What exactly did Mrs. Emerson tell you about Marcus? Sarah was quiet for a moment. She didn't tell me much, just that he was a former student who was also very sick. She seemed worried about him. Did she say anything else? Well, Sarah said slowly, she did say something strange yesterday. She said that seeing Marcus again would help heal an old wound. I didn't know what she meant. Michael understood. The wound was 60 years of separation. 60 years of a father and son who never got to know each other. Sarah, will you tell Mrs. Emerson that I made it to Detroit safely? And tell her I'll call her tomorrow after I visit Marcus. Of course, Mr. Jordan. Good luck tomorrow. After hanging up, Michael walked to the window of his hotel room. He could see the Detroit River in the distance. Across the water, the lights of Canada twinkled like stars. Somewhere in this city, Marcus Williams was sleeping in a nursing home. An old man with Alzheimer's disease who probably didn't remember his own name most days. But somewhere in his confused mind, he might still remember the son he gave up 60 years ago. The next morning, Michael woke up early. He had breakfast in his hotel room, but couldn't eat much. His stomach was nervous. He kept checking his watch. And looking out the window at 9 o'clock, Michael drove to Sunrise Manor Nursing Home. The building was on the east side of Detroit, in a neighborhood that had seen better days. The nursing home was clean but basic. The parking lot had cracks in the pavement. The sign by the entrance was faded. Michael sat in his car for 10 minutes before going inside. He thought about calling his mother again, or Mrs. Emerson, or even his wife. But this was something he had to do alone. The front desk was staffed by a middle-aged woman named Linda. She looked surprised when she saw Michael walk in. "Oh my goodness," she said. "Are you?" "I'm Michael Jordan," he said. "I'm here to visit Marcus Williams." Linda's face became serious. "Mr. Williams doesn't usually get visitors. Are you family?" Michael paused. Was he family? They had never met. They didn't know each other. But they shared the same DNA, the same blood. "Yes," Michael said. "I'm his son." Linda looked confused. "His son? But Mr. Williams doesn't have any family listed in his file." "It's complicated," Michael said. "We've been separated for a long time." Linda studied Michael's face carefully. Then she seemed to make a decision. "Let me get the director," she said. "This is unusual." A few minutes later, a man in his 50s came out to meet Michael. He was tall and thin with kind eyes. "Mr. Jordan, I'm Dr. Robert Hayes, the facility director. Linda tells me you're here to see Mr. Williams." "That's right. Can I ask how you know him?" "Mr. Williams has been with us for 2 years, and he's never had a visitor." Michael felt sad hearing that. No visitors for 2 years. Marcus had been living alone even before the Alzheimer's got bad. "Dr. Hayes, this is going to sound strange, but Marcus Williams is my biological father. We were separated when I was a baby. I just found out about him yesterday." Dr. Hayes looked shocked. "Your father? But I know it's hard to believe. But it's true. Can I see him?" Dr. Hayes thought for a moment. "Mr. Jordan, I need to prepare you. Mr. Williams has advanced Alzheimer's disease. He's confused most of the time. He might not understand who you are." "I understand. Also, his physical condition isn't good. He's lost a lot of weight. He looks much older than his 80 years. Michael nodded. "Can you tell me about his daily routine? What he's like?" Dr. Hayes sat down in the lobby and motioned for Michael to join him. "Mr. Williams is actually one of our more interesting residents," Dr. Hayes said. "Even with the Alzheimer's, he sometimes has moments of clarity. He likes to sit by the window and watch the parking lot. He talks about Detroit a lot, about working in the car factories. Does he ever talk about family? Sometimes he mentions someone named Dolores, and sometimes he talks about a son. But we always assumed he was confused. The state pays for his care, and we have no record of any family." Michael's heart jumped. Marcus still remembered his mother's name, and he still thought about his son. Dr. Hayes, what happens during his clear moments? He becomes more like the man he used to be. He's very intelligent. He asks good questions. He seems to understand what's happening around him. But those moments don't last long. Dr. Hayes stood up. "Mr. Jordan, are you sure you want to do this? It might be very emotional for both of you." Michael thought about Mrs. Emerson lying in her hospital bed in Charlotte. She had kept this secret for 60 years. She had brought him and Marcus together because she knew it was the right thing to do. "I'm sure," Michael said. All right then. Mr. Williams is in room 127. It's down the hall and to the right. As they walked toward the room, Dr. Hayes continued talking. Mr. Williams usually has his best moments in the morning. If you're going to connect with him, now is the best time. They stopped outside room 127. Through the doorway, Michael could see a thin man sitting in a chair by the window. He was wearing a simple blue shirt and gray pants. His hair was completely white. Michael's heart was pounding. This was it. After 60 years, he was about to meet his biological father. Mr. Williams, Dr. Hayes said as they entered the room. You have a visitor. The man by the window turned around slowly. Michael got his first clear look at Marcus Williams. He was much smaller than Michael had expected, maybe 140 pounds. His face was thin and lined with wrinkles, but his eyes were still sharp, still intelligent, and there was no doubt they were related. Marcus had the same strong jawline Michael saw in the mirror every day, the same long fingers, the same serious expression. Marcus, Michael said softly. My name is Michael Jordan. Marcus looked at him with confusion at first. Then something changed in his eyes. A spark of recognition. Michael Jordan, Marcus said slowly. The basketball player? Yes, Michael said. That's me. Marcus smiled for the first time. I love watching you play. You remind me of someone I used to know. Michael felt his heart breaking. Marcus didn't recognize him as his son, but somewhere in his confused mind, he knew Michael was important. Dr. Hayes whispered to Michael, I'll leave you two alone. Take as much time as you need. Michael sat down in the chair next to Marcus. This was the moment he had been thinking about all night. What do you say to the father you never knew? Marcus, Michael said gently. Can you tell me about yourself? About your life? Marcus looked out the window again. I worked in the factories, he said. Ford Motor Company. 30 years. It was hard work, but honest work. Did you like it? I was good with my hands. Good at fixing things. But I always wanted to be an engineer. Design cars instead of just building them. Michael remembered Mrs. Emerson saying that Marcus was brilliant, that he could have been anything. Why didn't you become an engineer? Michael asked. Marcus's face became sad. Life got in the way. My grandmother got sick. I had to take care of her. Then later, he paused. Then I made some choices. Hard choices. Michael leaned forward. What kind of choices? Marcus looked directly at Michael. For a moment, his confusion seemed to clear completely. I had a son once, Marcus said quietly. A long time ago. I gave him up so he could have a better life than I could give him. Michael felt tears coming to his eyes. Tell me about your son. He was going to be special, Marcus said. I could feel it. He was going to do things I never could. But I was too young, too scared, too poor. I let him go. Michael's voice was shaking. Do you ever wonder what happened to him? Marcus smiled sadly. Every day, I wonder if he's happy, if he had a good life, if he knows that his father loved him enough to let him go. Michael reached over and took Marcus's hand. It felt small and fragile. Marcus, Michael said softly, I think your son knows. I think he understands that you made the hardest choice a father can make. Marcus squeezed Michael's hand. You're very kind to say that. They sat together in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Michael looked at this man who had given him life. This man who had worked in factories for 30 years while thinking about the son he gave up. Then Marcus turned to Michael with a confused look. I'm sorry, Marcus said. Do I know you? You look familiar. The moment of clarity had passed. Marcus was confused again, but Michael didn't care. For just a few minutes, he had connected with his biological father. He had heard Marcus talk about the son he loved and missed. You have her eyes, Marcus whispered suddenly, looking directly at Michael. Dolores's eyes. Are you my boy? Michael's heart stopped. Even in his confusion, some part of Marcus recognized him. Yes, Michael whispered back. I'm your boy. Marcus stared at Michael for a long moment. His eyes filled with tears. His hands started shaking. My boy, Marcus said again. My Michael. Yes, Dad. It's me. Marcus began to cry. Not sad tears, but happy tears. He reached out with both hands and touched Michael's face, like he was making sure he was real. I can't believe it, Marcus whispered. You're so big, so strong. Look at you. Michael was crying too now. This moment felt like a dream. 60 years of separation ending in a small nursing home room in Detroit. How did you find me? Marcus asked. His voice was shaky but clear. Mrs. Emerson, Michael said. Dorothy Emerson. Do you remember her? Marcus's face lit up. Dorothy. My teacher. Is she okay? She's in the hospital. She's very sick. But she told me about you. She told me everything. Marcus nodded slowly. Dorothy was good to me. She helped me when I was young and stupid. She's been helping both of us for 60 years, Michael said. She kept your letters. She wore your necklace. She watched over me when I was her student. Marcus looked confused again. Letters? What letters? The letters you wrote to her about me. About my basketball games. About how proud you were. I wrote letters. Marcus asked. Then his face cleared a little. Oh yes, I remember now. I wanted to tell someone about my son. About how amazing he became. Michael pulled his chair closer to Marcus's chair. Tell me about your life, Dad. Tell me about Detroit. About the factories. For the next hour, Michael listened as Marcus talked about his life. Sometimes Marcus was clear and made perfect sense. Other times he got confused and forgot what he was saying. Marcus told him about working at Ford Motor Company. About the assembly line where he built car engines. About coming home every day tired and dirty. The work was hard, Marcus said, but I was proud of it. Every car that drove off that lot had a piece of me in it. Did you like living in Detroit? It was okay, Marcus said, but lonely. Very lonely. Marcus told Michael about his small apartment. About how he read books every night after work. About how he took classes at the community college on weekends. I kept learning, Marcus said, even though I couldn't finish high school the normal way. I wanted to keep my mind sharp. What did you study? Everything. Math. History. Literature. I love to read. Marcus smiled. I read every book about basketball I could find, especially books about you. Michael felt his heart breaking. While he was growing up with loving parents and every opportunity, Marcus was alone in Detroit, reading about his son in books. Marcus, Michael said gently, do you remember giving me up? Do you remember making that choice? Marcus's face became very serious. That was the hardest day of my life. But I knew it was right. You needed a father who could provide for you, who could give you opportunities. Do you regret it? Marcus looked directly at Michael. How can I regret it? Look at you. You became everything I dreamed you could be. You're successful. You're famous. You have a beautiful family. But you missed everything. My childhood. My games. My wedding. I didn't miss it, Marcus said. I watched every game on TV. I read every newspaper article. I celebrated every championship from far away. Marcus reached into his bedside table and pulled out a small wooden box. His hands were shaking as he opened it. Inside the box were dozens of newspaper clippings. Pictures of Michael from his playing days. Articles about his business success. Photos of his children. I kept everything, Marcus said. Every article I could find. This box is my most precious possession. Michael picked up one of the clippings. It was from 1991, when the Bulls won their first championship. The headline read, Jordan leads Bulls to NBA title. I was so proud that day, Marcus said. I cried watching that game. My son was a champion. Marcus, Michael said. Mrs. Emerson told me you've been saving money for me. Is that true? Marcus nodded. Every paycheck for 40 years. It's not much, but I wanted you to have something from your father. Where is the money? In a safety deposit box at the bank downtown. The key is in my apartment, hidden in my copy of The Great Gatsby. Michael was amazed. Why The Great Gatsby? Marcus smiled. Because it's about the American dream. About wanting something better for yourself and the people you love. That book reminded me why I gave you up. They talked for another hour. Marcus told Michael about his grandmother, who raised him after his parents died. About how smart she was, even though she never went to school. She taught me to read, Marcus said. She said education was the only way to escape poverty. But when she got sick, I had to choose between school and taking care of her. You chose her. Of course I did. She was all I had. Just like you were all I had, even though I couldn't keep you. Michael learned that Marcus had taught himself algebra and geometry while working in the factories. He had written poetry in his spare time. He had even started writing a novel about a young man who gives up his child for love. Did you ever finish the novel? Michael asked. No, Marcus said sadly. The words were too painful. It hurt too much to write about it. As the afternoon went on, Marcus got more tired. His moments of clarity became shorter. Sometimes he forgot who Michael was and asked if he was a doctor or a nurse. But then he would look at Michael's face and remember. You have your mother's eyes, Marcus would say. Beautiful eyes. Do you still think about her? About Mom? Dolores? Oh yes. I think about her every day. Is she happy? Did she have a good life? She did, Michael said. She married a wonderful man named James Jordan. He was my father in every way that mattered. They were happy together for 30 years until he died. Marcus smiled. Good. I'm glad she was happy. I'm glad she found love. Marcus, she asked me to tell you something. She said she never forgot you, and she's glad you made the choice you did. Tears ran down Marcus's cheeks. Tell her I never forgot her either. Tell her I understand why she couldn't wait for me. As the sun started to set, outside the window, Marcus became very tired. But he held on to Michael's hand like he was afraid to let go. Michael, Marcus said quietly, I need to tell you something important. What is it? I may not remember this tomorrow. My mind, it comes and goes. But I want you to know that this has been the best day of my life. Mine too, Michael said. I'm so proud of you, son. So proud of the man you became. You made all the pain worth it. Marcus closed his eyes and rested his head against his chair. He was still holding Michael's hand. Will you come back tomorrow? Marcus asked without opening his eyes. Of course I will, even if I don't remember you. Especially if you don't remember me. Marcus smiled. You're a good boy, Michael. You always were. As Michael prepared to leave, Marcus opened his eyes one more time. Michael, yes, thank you for finding me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being my father. For loving me enough to let me go. Michael kissed Marcus on the forehead and walked toward the door. As he reached the doorway, Marcus called his name one last time. Michael, yes, I love you, son. I've loved you every day for 60 years. I love you too, Dad. Michael left the nursing home with tears streaming down his face. He had come to Detroit looking for answers about his past. Instead, he had found something much more valuable. He had found his father. Michael sat in his rental car in the parking lot of Sunrise Manor for 20 minutes. He couldn't stop crying. 60 years of questions had been answered in one afternoon. But now he had a bigger problem. Marcus was dying alone in a place that felt more like a warehouse than a home. Mrs. Emerson was dying alone in a hospital room 300 miles away. The two people who had shaped his life the most were spending their final days without dignity, without comfort, without family. Michael pulled out his phone and called his assistant Jennifer back in Oregon. Jennifer, I need you to cancel all my meetings for the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Mr. Jordan, you have the board meeting on Thursday and the Nike presentation on. Cancel everything, Michael said firmly. This is more important. Michael drove back to his hotel and went straight to his room. He had work to do, plans to make. He was going to fix this situation, and he was going to do it right. First, he called his personal doctor in Chicago. Dr. Martinez, this is Michael Jordan. I need your help with something urgent. Of course, Michael. What's going on? I need you to recommend the best memory care facility in the Charlotte area. Money is no object. I want the absolute best care available. Dr. Martinez was quiet for a moment. Is this for a family member? Yes, Michael said. My father. I didn't know your father was still alive. It's complicated. Can you make some calls and get back to me tonight? Absolutely. I'll find you the best place in North Carolina. Next, Michael called his lawyer in Chicago. Tom, I need you to handle something for me. There's a man named Marcus Williams in Detroit. He's in a nursing home called Sunrise Manor. I need you to arrange for him to be transferred to a private facility in Charlotte. What's the timeline? As soon as possible. Tomorrow if we can manage it. Michael, that's going to be complicated. Medical transfers between states, insurance issues, legal paperwork. Tom, I don't care what it costs or how many people you have to hire. Make it happen. Michael's third call was to the hospital in Charlotte. Sarah, this is Michael Jordan. How is Mrs. Emerson? Mr. Jordan, she's been asking about you all day. How did your visit go? It went well. Sarah, I need to ask you something. Is it possible to move Mrs. Emerson to a private room? A nicer room? Well, yes, but her insurance might not cover. I'll cover all the costs. I want her to have the best room in the hospital. Private nurse if possible. Whatever she needs. That's very generous, Mr. Jordan. But can I ask why? Michael thought about how to explain it. How do you tell someone that an old teacher had kept a 60-year secret that changed your entire understanding of your life? Because she's family, he said simply. After Michael hung up with Sarah, he called his mother. Mom, I saw him. I met Marcus. How is he? Dolores asked softly. He's amazing, Mom. Even with the Alzheimer's, I can see why you fell in love with him. He's intelligent and kind and gentle. I'm glad you got to meet him. Mom, I'm moving him to Charlotte. I'm going to make sure he gets the best care possible." Dolores was quiet for a long moment. "Michael, are you sure that's wise? Moving someone with Alzheimer's can be very confusing for them. I can't leave him in that place, Mom. It's clean, but it's not a home. It's just a place where people go to die." "What about Dorothy? Is she still? She's still alive." "Mom, I want to ask you something. Would you consider visiting her? I know you two haven't spoken in years, but she's dying. And she kept this secret because she thought it was protecting our family." Dolores sighed. "I've been thinking about Dorothy since you called last night. Maybe it is time to let old grudges go. I think she'd like to see you." "I'll think about it, Michael. But first, tell me more about Marcus. What did you talk about?" Michael told his mother about the box of newspaper clippings, about the money Marcus had saved, about how he had followed Michael's entire career from far away. "He never married, Mom. Never had other children. He spent 40 years alone, thinking about the son he gave up. That breaks my heart," Dolores said. "Marcus was such a good young man. He deserved to be happy. He said to tell you that he never forgot you, and that he understands why you couldn't wait for him." Michael heard his mother crying on the other end of the phone. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said. "It's just hearing his name after all these years. I'm glad he doesn't hate me for marrying James." "He doesn't hate you, Mom. He's grateful. He said you made the right choice because it gave me a better life." That evening, Michael got a call back from Dr. Martinez. "Michael, I found the perfect place. Magnolia Manor in Charlotte. It's a small, private memory care facility. Only 20 residents. They have a full medical staff and beautiful grounds. It's expensive, but it's the best in the state. Can they take a patient immediately? I already spoke with the director. They have one opening. But Michael, the yearly cost is almost $200,000. I don't care about the cost. What do I need to do?" By 10 o'clock that night, Michael had everything arranged. Marcus would be transported by medical plane to Charlotte the next day. Mrs. Emerson would be moved to the best private room in the hospital. Michael would stay in Charlotte to make sure both of them were comfortable. But as Michael lay in bed that night, he realized something important. This wasn't just about moving two sick people to nicer facilities. This was about bringing together two people who had loved him in different ways. Mrs. Emerson had guided his education and his character. Marcus had given him life and then sacrificed his own happiness to give Michael opportunities. Both of them were dying. Both of them were alone. But they didn't have to die alone. The next morning, Michael went back to Sunrise Manor to see Marcus. Before the transfer, he found Marcus sitting in the same chair by the window. Marcus looked up when Michael walked in, but his eyes were confused. "Hello," Marcus said politely. "Are you a new doctor?" Marcus didn't remember yesterday's visit. The Alzheimer's had taken that beautiful reunion away from him. But Michael didn't mind. He understood now that this disease would steal many moments. The important thing was to make sure Marcus's remaining time was filled with dignity and love. "I'm Michael," he said, sitting down next to Marcus. "I'm your son." Marcus looked at him carefully. "My son? I have a son." "Yes. And today we're going to take a trip together. You're going to a new place where you'll be more comfortable." "A trip?" Marcus seemed excited. "I haven't taken a trip in years." "It's going to be a good trip," Michael promised. "And when we get there, you're going to meet someone very special. Someone who has been thinking about you for a long time." "Who?" "An old friend," Michael said. "Someone who helped both of us when we needed it most." As the medical transport team arrived to move Marcus, Michael thought about Mrs. Emerson lying in her hospital bed in Charlotte. She had orchestrated this reunion by writing that letter through Sarah. She had kept Marcus's secret for 60 years. And now, in her final days, she would get to see the result of her lifelong kindness. Marcus and Mrs. Emerson would be together again. The teacher who couldn't save her student, and the student who never forgot his teacher's kindness. And Michael would be there to take care of both of them. The plane lifted off from Detroit carrying Marcus Williams toward the reunion he didn't know he had been waiting for. Toward his son, who had found him after 60 years. Toward his old teacher, who had never stopped believing in second chances. Detroit disappeared below them. Michael held his father's hand and watched the clouds roll by. In a few hours, 3 lives that had been separated by secrets and sacrifice would finally come together. For the first time in 60 years, none of them would be alone. The medical plane landed at Charlotte Douglas Airport at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Michael held Marcus's hand during the entire flight. Sometimes Marcus seemed to understand they were traveling together. Other times he looked confused and asked where they were going. "We're going to see an old friend of yours," Michael kept saying. "Someone who has been waiting to see you for a very long time." "An old friend?" Marcus would ask. "What's their name?" "Dorothy. Dorothy Emerson." Sometimes Marcus smiled when he heard the name. Sometimes he looked blank. But Michael could tell that somewhere deep in his memory, the name meant something important. An ambulance was waiting at the airport to take Marcus to Presbyterian Hospital. Michael had arranged for Marcus to be admitted to the same floor as Mrs. Emerson. He wanted them to be close to each other. During the ride to the hospital, Marcus stared out the window at Charlotte. The city looked different than Detroit. Warmer, more trees, older buildings mixed with new ones. "This is where I grew up," Michael told Marcus. "This is where you met my mother." "Dolores?" Marcus said suddenly. "Is Dolores here?" "No, but we're going to see someone who knew both of you. Someone who cared about both of you." At the hospital, Sarah Chun was waiting for them. She had been preparing Mrs. Emerson for the visit all morning. "How is she?" Michael asked as they rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. "She's very excited," Sarah said, "and very weak. This might be one of her last good days." "Does she know that Marcus is coming?" "Yes. When I told her, she started crying. Happy tears. She asked me to help her fix her hair." The elevator opened on the 3rd floor. Michael walked beside Marcus's wheelchair as they moved down the hall toward Mrs. Emerson's new private room. "Mr. Williams," Sarah said gently to Marcus, "we're going to see Mrs. Emerson now. She was your teacher a long time ago." Marcus nodded, but Michael could see he was confused. The trip and the new place had made his Alzheimer's worse. They stopped outside room 318. Through the window, Michael could see Mrs. Emerson sitting up in bed. She looked tiny, but her eyes were bright and alert. "Mrs. Emerson," Sarah said as they entered the room, "your visitors are here." Michael pushed Marcus's wheelchair into the room. Mrs. Emerson looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then she began to cry. "Marcus," she whispered. "Oh my goodness. Marcus, is that really you?" Marcus stared at the woman in the hospital bed. He looked confused at first. Then something changed in his face. A spark of memory. "Dorothy," he said slowly. "Dorothy Emerson?" "Yes, Marcus. It's me. It's Dorothy." Michael moved Marcus's wheelchair closer to Mrs. Emerson's bed. Sarah quietly left the room to give them privacy. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Mrs. Emerson and Marcus just looked at each other. 60 years of separation ending in a hospital room. "You look old," Marcus said finally. Mrs. Emerson laughed. "So do you." "Marcus Williams." "How long has it been?" Marcus asked. "Too long," Mrs. Emerson said. "Much too long." Michael sat in a chair between them. He watched as his teacher and his biological father reconnected. It was like watching two pieces of his life puzzle finally fit together. "Dorothy," Marcus said, "this young man says he's my son. Do you know anything about that?" Mrs. Emerson looked at Michael with tears in her eyes. "Yes, Marcus. This is Michael. This is your boy." Marcus studied Michael's face carefully. "He's so big, so successful looking. He became everything we hoped he would," Mrs. Emerson said. "Remember how we used to talk about him when he was little? How we wondered what kind of man he would become? We talked about him. In your letters, Marcus. You wrote to me about Michael for 40 years. Marcus looked confused again. "I wrote letters?" Mrs. Emerson nodded. "Beautiful letters. You told me about every basketball game he played, every championship he won. You were so proud of him." "I was proud, so proud," Mrs. Emerson said. "You said that watching him succeed made all the pain worth it." Michael watched as Mrs. Emerson gently helped Marcus remember pieces of his life. She talked about the letters he had written, about how he had followed Michael's career, about how much he had loved his son from far away. "Marcus," Mrs. Emerson said, "do you remember why you left Wilmington? Why you went to Detroit?" Marcus thought for a moment. "My grandmother was sick. I had to take care of her." "That's right. And there was something else. Something about a baby." "A baby?" Marcus looked at Michael again. "Was there a baby?" "Yes," Mrs. Emerson said gently. "There was a baby. A beautiful baby boy who needed a good life." Slowly, with Mrs. Emerson's help, Marcus began to remember. Not everything, but pieces. Important pieces. "I gave him up," Marcus said quietly. I gave up my son so he could have a better father. Yes, Mrs. Emerson said. You made the hardest choice a young man could make. Did I do the right thing? Marcus asked, looking at Michael. Yes, Michael said. You did exactly the right thing. For the next 2 hours, the three of them talked. Sometimes Marcus was clear and remembered everything. Sometimes he was confused and forgot where he was. But Mrs. Emerson was patient with him, the same way she had been patient with Michael when he was struggling with algebra. Marcus told them about his life in Detroit, about working in the car factories, about the small apartment where he lived, alone, about the books he read to keep his mind busy. I missed you both, Marcus said during one of his clear moments. Dorothy, I missed your letters when you stopped writing. I never stopped writing, Mrs. Emerson said. I wrote to you every Christmas for 40 years. You did. Every year. I told you about Michael's life, about his achievements, about how proud you should be. Marcus smiled. I was proud. Even when I couldn't remember why, I was proud. Mrs. Emerson told Marcus about her years of teaching, about the thousands of students she had helped, about retiring and living alone with her memories. But I always wore your necklace, she said, every day for 40 years. It reminded me of the student I couldn't save and the student I helped raise. What happened to the necklace? Marcus asked. I gave it to the hospital when I got sick, but I still think about it every day. Michael quietly left the room and found Sarah at the nurse's station. Sarah, do you know what happened to Mrs. Emerson's personal belongings when she was admitted? They're in the safe in the business office. What? There's a gold necklace. It's very important to her. Can you get it? Of course. 20 minutes later, Sarah returned with a small gold pendant necklace. Michael took it back to room 318. Mrs. Emerson, Michael said, I think this belongs to you. He placed the necklace in her hands. Mrs. Emerson began to cry again. Marcus, she said, look, I still have it. Marcus stared at the necklace. I remember that. I gave it to you. You gave it to me in 1963, Mrs. Emerson said. You asked me to wear it and think of you whenever I saw your son in my classroom. Did you? Did you think of me? Every single day. Marcus reached out and touched the necklace with his shaky fingers. It's so small, but it meant so much. Mrs. Emerson put the necklace around her neck. Even in her hospital bed, even sick and dying, she looked more complete with it on. Marcus, she said, I need to tell you something important. What? You were wrong about one thing. You thought you couldn't save your son, but you did save him. You gave him a chance at a life you couldn't provide. That's not giving up. That's love. Marcus looked at Michael. Did I save you? Yes, Michael said. You saved me by letting me go. As the afternoon turned to evening, Marcus got more tired. His moments of clarity became shorter, but he held on to Mrs. Emerson's hand like he was afraid to let go. Dorothy, Marcus said quietly, I'm glad we got to see each other again. Me too, Marcus. Me too. I may not remember this tomorrow. That's okay. I'll remember for both of us. Marcus smiled. You always were the smart one, and you always were the good one. That night, Michael arranged for a cot to be brought into Mrs. Emerson's room. Marcus would sleep there so they could be near each other, as the two elderly people. Settled in for the night, Michael sat in the chair between their beds. Mrs. Emerson was wearing Marcus's necklace. Marcus was holding a photograph of young Michael from Mrs. Emerson's collection. Michael, Mrs. Emerson whispered in the dark, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for keeping the secret until it was time to tell it. Marcus, Mrs. Emerson called softly. Yes, I'm not afraid to die anymore. Why not? Because I got to see you again. Because I got to watch Michael become the man we always knew he could be. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Dorothy, yes, I love you. I always have. Not like a husband loves a wife, but like a son loves a mother. I love you too, Marcus. You were the best student I ever had. Even though I had to drop out. Especially because you had to drop out. You taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Michael listened to them talk in the darkness. Two people who had shaped his life in different ways. Two people who had found each other again after 60 years of separation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Mrs. Emerson was getting sicker. Marcus's Alzheimer's was getting worse. But tonight, they were together. Tonight, they were not alone. And for the first time in 60 years, that was enough. Michael woke up at 6 in the morning to the sound of machines beeping softly. He had slept in the chair between Mrs. Emerson's bed and Marcus's cot. His neck was sore, but he didn't care. He had wanted to be close to both of them. Mrs. Emerson was still sleeping, but her breathing sounded different. Weaker. Michael could tell she was getting sicker. Marcus was awake, staring out the window at the sunrise. He looked confused again, like he didn't remember where he was. "Good morning," Michael said quietly. Marcus turned toward him. "Hello? Are you a doctor?" "No, I'm Michael. I'm your son." Marcus studied his face. "My son? I have a son." "Yes. And this is Dorothy," Michael said, pointing to Mrs. Emerson's bed. "She was your teacher." Marcus looked at the sleeping woman. "She's very sick." "Yes, she is. Are we here to help her?" "In a way, yes." Mrs. Emerson woke up a few minutes later. She smiled when she saw Marcus and Michael. "Good morning, my boys," she said weakly. "Dorothy," Marcus said, "you don't look good." Mrs. Emerson laughed softly. "Thank you for being honest, Marcus. I don't feel good either." Dr. Patterson, Mrs. Emerson's doctor, came in to check on her. He asked Michael to step outside with him. "Mr. Jordan," Dr. Patterson said quietly, "I need to be honest with you. Mrs. Emerson probably doesn't have much time left. Maybe a day or two." Michael felt his heart sink. "Is she in pain?" "We're keeping her comfortable, but her body is shutting down." "Does she know?" "I think she does. She's been asking for her personal belongings from home. She says there are things she needs to take care of." Michael thought about Mrs. Emerson's apartment. He had never been there, but she had mentioned having boxes of letters from Marcus. "Dr. Patterson, would it be okay if I brought some of her things here? Things that are important to her." "Of course. Just don't tire her out too much." Michael asked Sarah for Mrs. Emerson's address. Then he drove to her apartment while Marcus stayed at the hospital. Mrs. Emerson lived in a small apartment complex near downtown Charlotte. Her apartment was on the second floor. The landlord, an elderly man named Mr. Chun, let Michael inside. Mrs. Emerson was a good tenant, Mr. Chun said. Quiet. Always paid her rent on time. Never had visitors, but she got a lot of mail. The apartment was small but neat. 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a living room filled with books. The walls were covered with photographs of students from her 40 years of teaching. But what took Michael's breath away was the dining room table. It was covered with cardboard boxes. Each box was labeled with a year: 1983, 1987, 1995, 2010. Michael opened the box labeled 1983. Inside were dozens of letters from Marcus, all written in his careful handwriting. There were also newspaper clippings about Michael's high school basketball games. He opened another box. More letters from Marcus. More newspaper articles about Michael's college career at North Carolina. Mrs. Emerson had kept everything. Every letter Marcus ever wrote to her. Every article about Michael she could find. 40 years of correspondence between a teacher and her former student who had become the father of her most famous pupil. In the bedroom, Michael found Mrs. Emerson's personal items. Photo albums. A jewelry box. A small wooden chest that was locked. Michael brought everything back to the hospital. When Mrs. Emerson saw the boxes, she started crying. "You found them," she whispered. "All of them," Michael said. 40 years of letters. Marcus was sitting in his wheelchair next to Mrs. Emerson's bed. He was looking through one of the photo albums. "Dorothy," Marcus said, "there are pictures of me in here. Young pictures. I kept everything, Marcus. Every photo. Every letter. Every memory." Mrs. Emerson asked Michael to open the locked wooden chest. Inside was something that made Michael's heart stop. Money. Stacks and stacks of cash. Old bills, new bills, all bundled together with rubber bands. "Mrs. Emerson," Michael said, "What is this?" "It's Marcus's money," she said quietly. Michael was confused. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Emerson looked at Marcus, then back at Michael. "Marcus, do you remember sending me money every month?" Marcus looked blank. "I sent you money for 40 years. Every month. You sent me $25 to save for Michael." Michael felt dizzy. "You've been saving money for me?" "Marcus has been sending it to me since 1963, Mrs. Emerson said. "He asked me to keep it safe until you were old enough to understand." Michael did quick math in his head. $25 a month for 40 years. That was $12,000. But there was much more money in the chest than that. "Mrs. Emerson, there's more than $12,000 here." She smiled weakly. "I added to it. Every year on your birthday, I put in money from my teacher's salary. and Marcus started sending more when he got promoted at the factory. Michael picked up one of the bundles of cash. There was a note wrapped around it in Mrs. Emerson's handwriting. For Michael's wedding, 1989. Another bundle had a note that said, for Michael's children's college fund, 1995. You've both been saving money for me my whole life. Marcus never stopped being your father, Mrs. Emerson said. And I never stopped being your teacher. We wanted to make sure you always had something to fall back on. Marcus was looking through the letters he had written, even though he couldn't remember writing them. He was reading them with interest. I wrote about basketball a lot, Marcus said. You wrote about everything, Mrs. Emerson said. Michael's games, his championships, his business success, your jobs at the factory, your classes at community college, your dreams. Marcus picked up a letter from 1991. Dear Dorothy, he read aloud slowly. Michael won the championship last night. I watched the whole game. When they put the trophy in his hands, I cried. My son is a champion. The son I gave up is a champion. Marcus looked up from the letter. I wrote this. You wrote hundreds of them, Mrs. Emerson said. Michael was overwhelmed. While he was growing up thinking he was just Michael Jordan, ordinary kid from North Carolina, two people had been quietly working behind the scenes, saving money for him, following his career, being proud of him from far away. Mrs. Emerson, Michael said, why didn't you ever tell me? Why didn't you ever give me the money? Because you didn't need it. You became successful on your own. The money wasn't about the money, Michael. It was about love. It was Marcus's way of being your father even though he couldn't be with you. Mrs. Emerson reached into the chest and pulled out one more item. A sealed envelope with Michael's name on it. Marcus wrote this letter 5 years ago, before his Alzheimer's got bad. He asked me to give it to you when the time was right. Michael opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter written in Marcus's careful handwriting. My dear son Michael, if you are reading this, then Dorothy has kept her promise to bring us together. I am probably very sick by now, and I may not remember you when we meet. But I want you to know some things while my mind is still clear. First, I love you. I have loved you every day for your entire life. Giving you up was not giving up on you. It was giving you the best chance I could. Second, I am proud of you. Not just because you became famous, but because you became a good man. I can see it in your interviews and in the way people talk about you. You have a kind heart. Third, the money Dorothy has been keeping is not a gift. It is not charity. It is 40 years of a father's love in the only form I knew how to give it. I know James Jordan was your real father. He raised you and loved you, and was there for all the important moments. I am grateful to him, but I hope you can find room in your heart for two fathers. One who raised you, and one who loved you enough to let you go. That I hope when we meet, I will remember you. But if I don't, please know that somewhere in my heart, I will always know you are my son. All my love, your father, Marcus Williams. Michael finished reading the letter with tears streaming down his face. He looked at Marcus, who was watching him, with curious eyes. Marcus, Michael said, do you remember writing this letter? Marcus shook his head. No, but it sounds like something I would write. Why? Because it sounds true, and full of love. Mrs. Emerson was getting weaker, but she was smiling. I did it, she whispered. Did what? Michael asked. I kept my promise to both of you. I promised Marcus I would watch over you. I promised you that someone would always believe in you. And I promised myself that I would bring you together before it was too late. Michael realized something incredible. Mrs. Emerson hadn't just been keeping Marcus's secret for 60 years. She had been planning this reunion all along. She had been waiting for the right moment to bring father and son together. Mrs. Emerson, Michael said, the letter from Sarah. You planned that, didn't you? She nodded weakly. I asked Sarah to write exactly what I told her to write. I knew if you thought I was dying alone, you would come. You orchestrated everything. I had to. I'm 88 years old, Michael. I knew I didn't have much time left. And Marcus's Alzheimer's is getting worse every month. If I didn't bring you together now, it might never happen. Michael was amazed. Even dying, Mrs. Emerson had been thinking about other people, about reuniting a father and son, about healing old wounds. Thank you, Michael said. Thank you for never giving up on us. Thank you for becoming the man we always knew you could be. That evening, Mrs. Emerson got much worse. Dr. Patterson said she probably wouldn't live through the night. Michael called his mother. Mom, if you want to see Mrs. Emerson, you need To come now. I'll be right there, Dolores said. An hour later, Dolores Jordan walked into room 318. She looked older than Michael remembered, but still strong and dignified. Mrs. Emerson was awake when Dolores entered the room. "Hello, Dorothy," Dolores said softly. "Hello, Dolores. You look beautiful." The two women looked at each other for a long moment. 60 years of complicated history between them. "Dorothy," Dolores said, "I'm sorry we stopped talking. I was wrong to be angry with you for staying in touch with Marcus. You were protecting your family. I understood. But you were right. Secrets are too heavy to carry alone." Dolores walked over to Marcus's wheelchair. He looked up at her with confused eyes. "Marcus?" she said gently. "Do you remember me?" Marcus stared at her face. For a moment, his confusion cleared. "Dolores," he whispered. "Is that really you?" "Yes, Marcus. It's me. You're still beautiful." Dolores began to cry. "Oh, Marcus. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry we couldn't make it work." "Don't be sorry," Marcus said. "You gave our son a wonderful life. That's all I ever wanted." For the next hour, the four of them sat together in the hospital room. Mrs. Emerson and Marcus holding hands. Dolores sitting next to Michael. All the secrets finally out in the open. Mrs. Emerson passed away peacefully at 11:47 that night, with Michael, Marcus, and Dolores by her side. Her last words were, "Take care of each other." But her death revealed one final truth that changed everything Michael thought he understood about his story. In her purse, nurses found one last letter. A letter she had written but never sent. A letter addressed to Michael, dated just 1 week ago. The letter contained a revelation that would make Michael understand that Mrs. Emerson's connection to his family was even deeper than he had ever imagined. Sarah Chun found the letter in Mrs. Emerson's purse 2 hours after she passed away. The envelope was cream-colored, just like the one that had started this whole journey. Michael's name was written on the front in Mrs. Emerson's shaky handwriting. "Mr. Jordan," Sarah said quietly, "I think Mrs. Emerson wanted you to have this." Michael took the letter with trembling hands. His mother and Marcus were both sleeping in their chairs. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. Michael opened the envelope and began to read. "My dearest Michael, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and my work is finally complete. I have one last secret to share with you. The most important secret of all. You see, Michael, my connection to your family goes back much further than you know. I wasn't just Marcus's teacher by accident. I wasn't just your algebra teacher by chance. Marcus Williams was my nephew." Michael stopped reading. His heart pounded in his chest. He read the line again. "Marcus Williams was my nephew. My sister Mary died when Marcus was 12 years old. My brother-in-law couldn't take care of Marcus alone, so the boy came to live with his grandmother, my mother. I was 25 then, just starting my teaching career. I watched Marcus grow up in my mother's house. I helped him with his homework. I saw how brilliant he was. I also saw how poor we were. My mother worked as a cleaning lady. I made $30 a week as a teacher. We barely had enough food. When Marcus fell in love with your mother, I was happy for him. When Dolores got pregnant, I was scared for both of them. They were so young. Marcus was already working 2 jobs to help my mother pay rent. The night Marcus decided to step aside so Dolores could marry James Jordan, he came to me crying. He said he was giving up his son so the baby could have a better life. I held my nephew while he broke his heart for love. Michael, I didn't just promise Marcus I would watch over you. I promised myself I would watch over my grandnephew. You are not just my former student. You are my family." Michael felt the room spinning around him. Mrs. Emerson wasn't just his teacher who had kept a secret. She was his great aunt. She was family. He kept reading. "When you walked into my classroom in 1979, I saw Marcus in your face immediately. Same jaw, same eyes, same quiet intelligence. I knew who you were before you ever said your name. I never told you because Marcus made me. Promised to let you live your life as a Jordan. He didn't want you to feel torn between 2 families. But Michael, every day I taught you, I was teaching my own family. Every time I stayed after school to help you with math, I was helping my nephew's son. Every time I encouraged you to try out for basketball, I was supporting my grandnephew's dreams. The necklace Marcus gave me wasn't just a gift from a student to his teacher. It was a gift from a nephew to his aunt. A promise that we would both watch over the child he was giving up. For 60 years, I kept that promise. I wore that necklace every day to remember the baby I helped raise from far away. I saved Marcus's letters because they were letters from my family. I saved money for you because you are my blood. I am so proud of the man you became, Michael. Not just as your teacher, but as your great aunt. You are the best of all of us. The best of Marcus's intelligence, your mother's strength, and James. Jordan's kindness. Please take care of Marcus. He is all the family I have left in this world. And remember that families come in many forms. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who love you from far away. All my love, your great aunt. Dorothy Emerson Williams. Michael read the letter 3 times before it fully sank in. Dorothy Emerson Williams. She had been using her maiden name all these years, but she was a Williams. Marcus's family. His family. Michael looked at Marcus sleeping in his chair. His biological father was also his great-uncle. Mrs. Emerson hadn't just been a kind teacher who kept a secret. She had been family watching over family. Everything made sense now. Why Mrs. Emerson had been so patient with him. Why she had believed in him so strongly. Why she had stayed in touch with Marcus for 60 years. She wasn't just keeping a promise to a former student. She was keeping a promise to her nephew. Michael woke up his mother gently. "Mom," he whispered, "I need to show you something." Dolores read the letter with growing amazement. When she finished, she looked at Marcus with tears in her eyes. "I never knew," she said. "Dorothy never told me she was Marcus's aunt." "She kept that secret too," Michael said. "She kept all the secrets to protect our family." "Michael, do you realize what this means?" "What?" "It means you've had blood family watching over you your entire life. Mrs. Emerson wasn't just a teacher who cared about you. She was family who loved you." Michael thought about all the times Mrs. Emerson had been there for him. The after-school tutoring, the encouragement to try out for basketball, the way she had smiled at him in the hallway. He had thought it was just good teaching, but it was family love. "Mom, should we tell Marcus about Mrs. Emerson being his aunt?" Dolores looked at Marcus, who was still sleeping peacefully. "His Alzheimer's is so bad now. He might not understand, but we can try." When Marcus woke up an hour later, Michael showed him the letter. Marcus read it slowly, his lips moving as he sounded out the words. "Dorothy was my aunt?" Marcus asked. "Yes, your mother's sister." Marcus thought for a moment. "I remember now. Aunt Dorothy. She helped raise me when my mother died." "Do you remember living with your grandmother?" "With Mrs. Emerson's mother?" "Yes," Marcus said, his eyes becoming clearer. "Grandma Williams. She was so good to me. And Aunt Dorothy was there too. She helped me with school." For a few minutes, Marcus remembered his childhood clearly. He told Michael and Dolores about living in his grandmother's small house, about how Aunt Dorothy would come over every Sunday for dinner, about how she helped him with his homework when he was struggling in school. "She always believed I was smart," Marcus said, "even when my teachers didn't." "She believed in you your whole life," Michael said. "And she believed in me because I was your son." Marcus looked at Michael with sudden understanding. "She watched over you for me." "Yes, because we were family. Because you were family." Marcus smiled. "I'm glad she did. I'm glad you had family watching over you, even when I couldn't be there." That afternoon, Michael made funeral arrangements for Mrs. Emerson. He arranged for her to be buried in the Williams family plot next to her mother and sister, Marcus's grandmother and mother. The funeral was small but meaningful. Michael, his mother, and Marcus were there. So were several former students who had heard about Mrs. Emerson's death. Sarah Chin came too, along with a few other nurses from the hospital. During the service, Michael spoke about Mrs. Emerson's life, about her 40 years of teaching, about the thousands of students she had helped, about the secret she had kept to protect a family she loved. "Mrs. Emerson taught me that families come in many forms," Michael said. "Sometimes your family is the people who raise you. Sometimes your family is the people who give you life. And sometimes your family is the people who love you quietly from far away, making sure you have everything you need to succeed." After the funeral, Michael moved Marcus to Magnolia Manor, the beautiful memory care facility he had found. Marcus's room had a window that looked out on a garden. There were comfortable chairs and pictures on the walls. Michael visited Marcus every day. Sometimes Marcus remembered who he was. Sometimes he didn't. But Michael didn't mind. He read to Marcus from the letters Marcus had written to Mrs. Emerson. He showed him pictures of Michael's children, Marcus's grandchildren. "Do I have grandchildren?" Marcus would ask. "Yes, beautiful grandchildren. and they want to meet their grandfather. Michael brought his children to meet Marcus. His daughter Jasmine was especially gentle with the old man. She would sit next to his wheelchair and tell him about school. Marcus always smiled when she talked, even when he couldn't. Remember her name? 6 months after Mrs. Emerson's death, Michael started the Dorothy Emerson Williams Foundation. The foundation provided scholarships for students from low-income families who showed academic promise. Every year, Michael personally met with the scholarship recipients. He told them about Mrs. Emerson and about the importance of having someone who believes in you. At the first scholarship ceremony, held at Laney High School, Michael spoke to 50 students who reminded him of himself at their age. Kids who were struggling but trying. Kids who needed someone to see their potential. My teacher, Mrs. Dorothy Emerson, once told me that getting cut from the basketball team didn't mean I wasn't good enough, Michael said. It just meant I wasn't ready yet. Sometimes in life, we all need someone to help us get ready, to help us see what we can become. After the ceremony, a young girl approached Michael. She was about 14, quiet and serious. She reminded him of himself at that age. "Mr. Jordan," she said, "I don't have anyone who believes in me. My parents work 2 jobs and don't have time for school stuff. My teachers think I'm just average. Will you be my Mrs. Emerson?" Michael looked at this young girl and saw himself. He saw Marcus. He saw the cycle of hope and possibility that Mrs. Emerson had started so many years ago that he thought about Mrs. Emerson's final letter, about families coming in many forms, about people who love you from far away. "I already am," he said, putting his hand on her shoulder. "And so are a lot of other people. Sometimes you just have to look for them." Michael realized that Mrs. Emerson's greatest lesson wasn't about algebra or basketball. It was about love, about how love multiplies when you share it, about how one person believing in you can change your entire life. Marcus lived for 2 more years at Magnolia Manor. In his clear moments, he was proud of Michael's foundation. He was proud of his grandchildren. He was proud that Mrs. Emerson's legacy would continue through the students they helped. Marcus died peacefully in his sleep on a Tuesday morning in spring. Michael was holding his hand. His last words were, "Tell Aunt Dorothy I kept my promise. Tell her I loved my son from far away." Michael buried Marcus next to Mrs. Emerson in the Williams family plot. 3 generations of a family finally together. At Marcus's funeral, Michael spoke about love and sacrifice, about fathers who raise you and fathers who give you life, about teachers who become family and family who become teachers. "My father Marcus taught me that sometimes the greatest love requires the greatest sacrifice," Michael said. "My great aunt Dorothy taught me that family is not just about blood. It's about the people who choose to love you and believe in you, even when it's hard." After the funeral, Michael went to visit the young girl from the scholarship ceremony. Her name was Jasmine, and she lived in a small apartment with her grandmother. "How are your grades?" Michael asked. "Better," Jasmine said. "I've been trying harder since you told me people believe in me." "Good. Keep trying. Keep believing in yourself." "Mr. Jordan, can I ask you something?" "Anything. Do you think Mrs. Emerson would be proud of what you're doing? With the scholarships and everything?" Michael thought about Mrs. Emerson lying in her hospital bed, about her final words, "Take care of each other." "Yes," he said. "I think she would be very proud. And I think she would want us to keep helping kids like you. Kids who just need someone to believe in them." Michael realized that the story wasn't ending. It was beginning again. With every student the foundation helped. With every young person who found someone to believe in them. With every act of love that passed from one generation to the next. Mrs. Emerson had taught him that the best way to honor the people who believe in you is to believe in others. The best way to repay love is to share love. And that was exactly what Michael planned to do for the rest of his life. That we'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. That if this story touched your heart, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring true stories that celebrate the power of human kindness and connection. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Stories like these remind us that sometimes the greatest gifts come from the people who love us quietly from far away, and that believing in someone can change their entire life. Help us spread kindness and awareness by sharing Michael's story. You never know whose life might be touched by learning about the teacher who kept a promise, the father who sacrificed everything, and the son who discovered that family comes in many beautiful forms. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you In the next story,